Tom Reynolds wasn't the kind of guy who craved attention. He was simple, easygoing, and preferred a quiet life by the lake. His little house wasn't fancy, but it had charm. And then there was his boat, his pride and joy. It wasn't new or shiny, but to Tom, it was perfect. The boat, named Asterisk, the Seagull's Revenge Asterisk, had been with him for years. It carried stories of fishing trips, lazy afternoons floating on calm waters, and countless sunsets that painted the sky in fiery hues. To him, it wasn't just a boat, it was a time capsule of memories. But not everyone shared Tom's affection for Asterisk, the Seagull's Revenge Asterisk. Lately, things in the neighborhood had changed. The Homeowners Association, HOA, had become stricter about how people kept their homes and their belongings. They sent out letters reminding everyone to keep their properties looking tidy and uniform. At first, Tom didn't think much of it. After all, his house was neat, his yard trimmed, and his boat, well, it floated just fine. What more could they want? One crisp Saturday morning, as Tom sipped coffee on his porch, he noticed an envelope tucked under his doormat. Curious, he opened it and began reading. His smile faded quickly. The letter was from the HOA, and it wasn't friendly. In formal language, they called his boat an eyesore and demanded he either repaint it or remove it entirely. Tom blinked twice, rereading the words to make sure he hadn't misunderstood. An eyesore. His beloved boat. At first, he felt hurt. Then came frustration. Who were these people to tell him what was ugly or beautiful? Sure, the boat wasn't sleek like some of the expensive yachts docked nearby, but it had character. It had history. Still, as the day went on, Tom found himself chuckling at the absurdity of it all. Eyesore. Really? That's when inspiration struck, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. If the HOA thought his boat was too ugly now, why not give them something truly unforgettable? That evening, Tom sat at his kitchen table with a pencil and paper, sketching ideas. By the time he went to bed, his mind buzzed with possibilities. What if he turned his boat into something so outrageous, so over-the-top ridiculous, that no one could ignore it? Something bold, colorful, and impossible to forget. And just like that, a plan began to take shape. Over the next few days, Tom couldn't stop thinking about it. He imagined reactions, from shocked neighbors to flustered HOA members, and laughed every time. This wasn't just about sticking it to the rules anymore. It was about making a statement, about proving that beauty doesn't always mean perfection. Sometimes it means standing out, being different, and embracing your quirks. Little did Tom know, this small act of defiance would soon spiral into something far bigger than he ever imagined. For now, though, he simply smiled, knowing he was onto something special. Tom's mind raced with ideas, each one more outrageous than the last. He didn't want to just repaint his boat. He wanted to transform it into something that would make people stop, stare, and maybe even laugh. The HOA had called his boat an eyesore, but what if he gave them an eyesore so bold and ridiculous that it turned their complaint on its head? That's when inspiration struck. A flamingo. Not just any flamingo. A giant, glittering, larger-than-life flamingo. Flamingos were funny creatures, awkward yet elegant, loud yet graceful. They stood out no matter where they were, unapologetically pink and impossible to ignore. To Tom, they represented everything he loved about being different. Plus, there was something inherently amusing about painting a boat to look like a bird known for standing on one leg in shallow water. It was perfect. The next step was giving the boat a name. Tom thought long and hard about this. Naming something was serious business. It had to fit the theme and carry a bit of attitude. Then it hit him. Asterisk Karen asterisk. The internet was full of jokes about Karens, those stereotypical complainers who always demanded to speak to the manager. What better way to poke fun at the HOA than by naming his boat after their entire vibe? With a satisfied grin, Tom finalized his plan. Karen asterisk. The world's first flamingo-themed boat was about to be born. The following weekend, Tom gathered supplies from the local hardware store, buckets of neon pink paint, brushes, glitter glue, and even some fake feathers he found at a craft shop. Word spread quickly around the neighborhood as people noticed Tom working tirelessly on his project. Some stopped by to watch, curiosity getting the better way of them. Kids giggled and pointed, already declaring Karen asterisk the coolest thing they'd ever seen. Adults, however, were more divided. A few shook their heads, muttering about how absurd it all was, while others couldn't help but chuckle at Tom's audacity. As the days went by, Karen asterisk began to take shape. Her hull transformed into a dazzling shade of hot pink, her sides adorned with swirling patterns meant to mimic feathers. Tom added googly eyes near the front, oversized enough to give her a playful, cartoonish look. By the time he attached a feathered crown to the top of the cabin, she looked every bit the diva he'd envisioned. She wasn't just a boat anymore. She was a statement. Neighbors couldn't stop talking about it. Some loved it, saying it brought color and personality to the otherwise bland lakefront. Others hated it, claiming it ruined the natural beauty of the area. But love it or hate it, everyone agreed on one thing. Karen asterisk was impossible to ignore. Even tourists started showing up, snapping photos and asking questions. Tom became a local celebrity overnight, whether he liked it or not. Through it all, Tom stayed lighthearted. This wasn't about revenge or causing trouble. It was about having fun and reminding people not to take life too seriously. If the HOA wanted uniformity, they'd gotten the exact opposite. And deep down, Tom knew this was only the beginning. Whatever happened next, he was ready. After all, how could anyone argue with a flamingo? As the days turned into weeks, Karen asterisk became the talk of the neighborhood and beyond. Tom spent every spare moment working on her, adding new details and flourishes that made her even more outrageous. One day, it was a set of giant eyelashes glued above her googly eyes. The next, it was a string of fairy lights wrapped around the railing, giving her a festive glow at night. Each addition brought fresh waves of attention, turning Karen asterisk into a living art project that no one could look away from. Neighbors couldn't resist stopping by to see what Tom had done next. Kids loved her, treating her like a mascot. They'd run up to the dock, giggling as they posed for pictures or tried to touch her feathers. Parents, though sometimes exasperated, found themselves smiling too. It was hard not to feel a little lighter around something so unabashedly silly. Even some of the adults who initially disliked the idea began to soften. Sure, Karen asterisk was loud and flashy, but she also had a certain charm. She reminded people to laugh, even when life felt heavy. Not everyone was amused, though. A small group of neighbors remained firmly against Tom's creation, calling it tacky and disrespectful. These were the same people who attended HOA meetings religiously, clutching clipboards and quoting rulebooks. They muttered under their breath about property values plummeting and how Tom was setting a bad example. But their complaints only seemed to fuel Tom's determination. Every time someone criticized Karen asterisk, he added another layer of flair, just to keep things interesting. Tom wasn't doing this alone either. As word spread, friends and strangers alike began pitching in. One neighbor donated a bag of glitter, saying it might help her shine. Another brought over a playlist of tropical tunes, claiming Karen asterisk needed a soundtrack. Local kids started leaving drawings of flamingos taped to Tom's mailbox, each one sillier than the last. What had started as a solo project quickly turned into a community effort, even if not everyone approved. By the time Tom declared Karen asterisk finished, she was a masterpiece. Her bright pink hull sparkled in the sunlight. Her oversized eyes blinked playfully, thanks to a clever motorized mechanism, and her feathered crown swayed gently in the breeze. At night, the fairy lights cast a warm glow, making her look almost magical. She wasn't just a boat anymore. She was an experience. People came from miles away to see her, snapping photos and sharing them online. Someone even suggested starting a petition to make her the official symbol of the lake. But while Karen brought joy to many, she also stirred up trouble. The HOA board members, who had hoped Tom would quietly repaint his boat and move on, were now facing backlash of their own. Complaints poured in, not about Karen but about the HOA's decision to target such a harmless hobby. Some residents openly questioned why the association cared so much about appearances instead of focusing on real issues like potholes or park maintenance. Others accused them of stifling creativity and individuality. For a group that prided itself on order and control, this was not going according to plan. Through it all, Tom stayed calm and cheerful. He didn't gloat or rub his critics' noses in their failure to stop him. Instead, he invited anyone curious about Karen to come take a closer look, or better yet, hop aboard for a ride. There was something infectious about his enthusiasm. Whether you loved Karen or hated her, you couldn't deny that she made life a little brighter. And deep down, Tom knew that was the real victory. The HOA's reaction to Karen was swift and predictable. Within days of her transformation, another letter arrived at Tom's door. This one thicker and more formal than the last. It wasn't just a polite request anymore. It was an official warning. The board cited multiple violations: unauthorized structural modifications, improper color schemes, and a breach of neighborhood aesthetic standards. They demanded that Tom remove all decorations immediately or face escalating fines. If he refused, they threatened legal action. Tom read the letter with a mix of amusement and disbelief. He'd expected pushback, but this felt over the top, even for them. Instead of panicking, though, he decided to respond in true Karen style, with humor and flair. Sitting down at his kitchen table, he drafted a reply that would become legendary in the neighborhood. He titled it, "In Defense of Avian Artistry," and argued, with mock seriousness, that flamingos were symbols of grace, beauty, and ecological harmony. He included a collage of photos showing flamingos in nature, suggesting that his boat actually promoted wildlife awareness. To top it off, he ended the letter by thanking the HOA for inspiring him to create something so meaningful. When the board received Tom's response, they were baffled. Some members thought it was hilarious, while others were furious. How dare he make fun of their rules? Meetings turned into heated debates as they tried to figure out what to do next. A few suggested backing off, worried about how petty they looked. Others insisted on taking a hard line, fearing that leniency would encourage similar acts of rebellion. In the end, they doubled down, sending yet another letter, this time with a detailed list of penalties and deadlines. But Tom didn't budge. He knew he had public opinion on his side, and he wasn't afraid to use it. Meanwhile, tensions in the neighborhood grew. Those who supported Tom cheered him on, praising his creativity and courage. They started leaving flamingo-themed gifts on his porch, plastic lawn ornaments, flamingo-patterned socks, even a flamingo piñata. Kids made signs declaring, "We love Karen," and hung them from trees near the lake. On the other hand, the anti-Karen crowd became louder too. They complained incessantly, claiming her presence was ruining their peace and quiet. One neighbor even went so far as to call her a monstrosity, prompting laughter from Tom's supporters. The divide between the two groups deepened, turning friendly chats into awkward silences and casual waves into icy stares. Despite the growing drama, Tom remained unfazed. He saw the situation for what it was, a clash between rigid rules and human creativity. To him, Karen wasn't just a boat. She represented freedom, the kind of joyous self-expression that reminded people life didn't have to be so serious all the time. Every time someone criticized her, he added another whimsical detail, like a tiny sign that read, "Honk, if you love flamingos." Each addition only made her more beloved, and more infuriating to her detractors. The HOA tried everything they could think of to regain control. They held emergency meetings, sent follow-up letters, and even hired a lawyer to review their options. But the harder they pushed, the more resistance they faced. Local news outlets caught wind of the feud, and soon reporters were calling Tom for interviews. When asked about the HOA's complaints, he shrugged and said, if they wanted uniformity, maybe they shouldn't have picked a fight with a Flamingo. His words quickly went viral, earning him fans across the country. By now, it was clear that the HOA had underestimated Tom, and Karen What started as a simple disagreement had spiraled into something much bigger, a battle over principles. For Tom, it wasn't just about winning or losing. It was about standing up for individuality, humor, and the right to express yourself, even if it meant ruffling a few feathers along the way. And as long as Karen floated proudly on the lake, he knew he was making his point loud and clear. It didn't take long for Karen to go from a local curiosity to a national sensation. Someone posted photos of her online. Bright pink hull, googly eyes, and all. And the internet exploded. Within hours, memes began circulating. Jokes flooded social media feeds, and hashtags like #FlamingoFreedom and #TeamKaren started trending. People couldn't get enough of her. She was funny, bold, and utterly ridiculous, a symbol of standing out in a world obsessed with blending in. Local news stations were the first to pick up the story. Reporters arrived at the lake, microphones in hand, eager to interview Tom and snap pictures of Karen At first, Tom was hesitant. He wasn't used to being in the spotlight, but he quickly warmed up. With a grin, he told them about the HOA's complaints, his decision to fight back with humor, and how Karen had become a beacon of creativity and fun. His easygoing charm won people over instantly. Clips of him talking about avant-garde boating or explaining why flamingos are nature's comedians went viral, earning millions of views. As word spread, tourists began flocking to the lake just to see Karen in person. Families packed picnic baskets, couples took selfies with her as a backdrop, and kids begged their parents to let them climb aboard. Local businesses saw an unexpected boost in sales. Coffee shops stayed busy serving flamingo-themed drinks, souvenir stands sold out of flamingo merchandise, and restaurants reported record numbers of customers. Even the ice cream truck driver joked that he'd never sold so many pink popsicles in his life. The attention wasn't limited to locals and tourists, either. National talk shows invited Tom to share his story, and late-night comedians turned Karen into punchlines. One host quipped, "If you think your neighbor's holiday decorations are bad, wait till you meet Karen, the boat that refuses to blend in." Another comedian joked, "I hear the HOA is now considering renaming themselves the Homeowners Against Flamingos." Each mention brought more visibility, turning Karen into a cultural phenomenon. Amid the chaos, the HOA scrambled to save face. Their initial stern letters seemed laughably out of touch now, and their attempts to enforce rules only made them look worse. When they issued a formal statement defending their commitment to community standards, it backfired spectacularly. Critics pointed out that their rigid approach stifled creativity and alienated residents. Social media users mocked their seriousness, posting parody versions of their logo with added flamingos. The #HOA drama trended alongside #TeamKaren, further embarrassing the board members. Tom handled the newfound fame with humility and humor. He gave interviews but never lost sight of what mattered most, staying true to himself. When asked if he regretted turning his boat into such a spectacle, he laughed and said, "Not for a second. Life's too short to blend in when you can stand out." His words resonated deeply, striking a chord with anyone who'd ever felt pressured to conform. Supporters praised him for reminding people to embrace their quirks, while critics grumbled that he was encouraging disorder. But even they had to admit, Karen had captured hearts across the country. Back home, the neighborhood buzzed with energy. Supporters organized Flamingo Fridays, where people gathered near the dock to celebrate creativity and individuality. Kids wore homemade flamingo costumes, adults sipped flamingo-colored cocktails, and speakers talked about the importance of self-expression. It became less about Tom's feud with the HOA and more about fostering a sense of community, one that valued laughter, freedom, and a little bit of sparkle. Through it all, Karen remained the star of the show. Whether she was glowing under fairy lights at night or catching the sunlight during the day, she stood as proof that sometimes breaking the rules leads to something extraordinary. And though the HOA still tried to fight back, it was clear they were fighting a losing battle. The world had fallen in love with Karen, and there was no going back. The neighborhood was no longer the quiet, predictable place it had once been. Karen wasn't just a boat anymore. She was a lightning rod, sparking debates and dividing opinions in ways no one could have anticipated. For some residents, she was a source of pride, a symbol of standing up to unnecessary rules. They admired Tom's courage and creativity, seeing him as a hero who dared to challenge conformity. These supporters rallied around him, hosting events like Flamingo Fridays and decorating their own yards with pink flamingo lawn ornaments in solidarity. Kids drew colorful pictures of Karen and hung them in windows, while adults exchanged knowing smiles whenever they passed her dock. But not everyone shared this enthusiasm. The anti-Karen faction grew louder, frustrated by what they saw as chaos disrupting their peaceful community. To them, Karen represented everything wrong with bending or outright ignoring the rules. They argued that property values would plummet, that tourists were invading their privacy, and that Tom's antics set a dangerous precedent. Heated arguments erupted at HOA meetings, with both sides shouting over each other. Friendships soured, neighborly waves turned into icy stares, and tension simmered beneath every interaction. What had started as a disagreement about a boat had spiraled into something far deeper, a clash of values. Tom noticed the divide but refused to let it dampen his spirit. He continued inviting curious visitors aboard Karen, sharing stories about her creation and cracking jokes about the HOA's increasingly desperate letters. His lightheartedness disarmed even some of his harshest critics. One elderly woman, initially vocal against Karen, admitted during a chance encounter that she secretly loved how much joy the boat brought to children. Another neighbor confessed he admired Tom's bravery, though he'd never admit it publicly. These small moments reminded Tom that people weren't always as divided as they seemed. Sometimes, they just needed a reason to reconnect. Despite the growing rift, Tom made an effort to bridge the gap. During Flamingo Fridays, he encouraged attendees to focus on fun rather than conflict. There were games, music, and plenty of laughter, all centered around celebrating individuality without tearing others down. He often joked that Karen wasn't out to make enemies. She simply wanted everyone to loosen up a little. Slowly but surely, these gatherings began to soften tensions. Even skeptics found themselves smiling when kids paraded around in homemade flamingo hats, or when someone told a particularly funny story about trying and failing to replicate Karen's googly eyes. Still, the HOA remained stubborn. Board members doubled down on their complaints, issuing yet another formal warning to Tom. This time, however, their efforts felt futile. Public support for Karen had reached levels they couldn't ignore. Local businesses openly endorsed her, offering discounts to customers wearing flamingo gear. News outlets continued covering the feud, highlighting the absurdity of penalizing such a harmless act of self-expression. Even national figures weighed in, with one celebrity tweeting, "If Karen goes, we all go." The pressure mounted until the HOA looked less like protectors of order and more like villains in a feel-good movie. Behind closed doors, cracks began forming within the HOA itself. Some members questioned whether pursuing legal action was worth the mounting backlash. Others worried about how their rigid stance might harm the neighborhood's reputation. A few quietly admitted that Karen had injected life into a community that had grown stagnant. But undoing months of resistance wasn't easy. Pride and fear of appearing weak kept them from backing down completely. Through it all, Tom stayed grounded. He knew the battle wasn't really about a boat or property values. It was about freedom versus control, laughter versus seriousness, and embracing differences instead of fearing them. Every time someone thanked him for brightening their day, or admitted they'd underestimated Karen, he felt vindicated. Whether the HOA liked it or not, Karen had already changed the neighborhood, and possibly the world, for the better. The HOA's fight against Karen eventually reached a tipping point. Faced with mounting public pressure, legal costs, and the sheer absurdity of battling a pink Flamingo boat, they realized they couldn't win, not without looking even more out of touch than they already did. In a reluctant compromise, the board agreed to grandfather Karen under existing rules, allowing her to stay as long as no further changes were made. It wasn't exactly a victory lap for Tom, but it was close enough. The decision came with a carefully worded statement claiming the HOA still valued community standards, though everyone knew the real reason. They had been beaten by a bird. For Tom, this resolution felt like vindication. He hadn't set out to pick a fight or become an internet sensation. He'd simply wanted to stand up for himself in a way that brought joy instead of anger. And in doing so, he'd sparked something much bigger, a conversation about creativity, individuality, and the importance of not taking life too seriously. As news of the compromise spread, supporters celebrated Karen's official place in the neighborhood. Critics grumbled, but even they had to admit she'd become part of the fabric of the community. Years later, Karen remained docked by the lake, her bright pink hull still turning heads. She became a local landmark, featured on postcards and guidebooks. Tourists continued visiting, snapping photos and sharing stories of how seeing her reminded them to embrace their own quirks. Kids who had grown up watching her transformation now brought their own children to meet her, passing down tales of the great Flamingo feud. For many, Karen symbolized more than just a rebellious boat. She represented resilience, humor, and the power of standing out. Tom, meanwhile, returned to his quiet life, but with a renewed sense of purpose. He stayed involved in the community, using his newfound platform to advocate for creativity and kindness. When disagreements arose, he encouraged neighbors to find common ground rather than digging deeper trenches. His lighthearted approach inspired others to tackle conflicts with humor instead of hostility. Even former critics softened over time, admitting that while they might not love Karen, they respected what she stood for. The HOA, too, learned a valuable lesson. Their rigid enforcement policies gave way to a more flexible mindset, recognizing that beauty isn't always uniform, and that sometimes a little chaos can bring people together. Though they never publicly acknowledged defeat, their softened stance spoke volumes. Rules still existed, but they were applied with a bit more heart and understanding. As for Karen, she aged gracefully, her glitter fading slightly but her spirit intact. Tom kept her in top shape, ensuring she remained seaworthy for years to come. On special occasions, he threw parties aboard her deck, inviting friends, family, and even former foes to celebrate the unlikely legacy she created. At these gatherings, laughter echoed across the water, proving that even the most divided communities could find unity in shared joy. Looking back, Tom often chuckled at how one small act of defiance had spiraled into something so extraordinary. What started as a personal protest had grown into a movement, one that reminded people to laugh, to dream, and to embrace the things that make life colorful. Whether it was through her googly eyes, her feathered crown, or her unapologetic boldness, Karen taught everyone who crossed her path that being different isn't something to fear, it's something to celebrate. And for Tom, that was the greatest victory of all.